bring in DC's People's Champ. How are you doing tonight, Champ?
I'm salty. That's all I got. I'm salty.
Yeah, I know. So didn't mention the Wizards hardly at all in that segment, and it was an hour long
There
segment.
was no reason to mention them. They're ass. They're ass.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. 142 to 129. I'm not even gonna put the score bug back up. I don't see a point. They are just terrible. We'll get into that at the end. But the Commanders had an opportunity to, right the ship, we should speak, against a shitty team, and we're an 8.5 point favorite, and we lose badly, and it's all because of their turnovers. We had 9 sacks, and I've never seen us have 9 sacks and lose. New York's never had 9 sacks and
The
won.
Giants made history, and someone put on social media the Giants became the first team in NFL history to give up 9 sacks but have 6+ takeaways and 30+ points. What does that say? What is that you said, DJ, before? If you want to get right, play the Commanders.
Exactly.
Yeah, with that, it's a good segue. We're gonna bring in Dujunnea Bland from the Not Bland show. Yeah, this was hard to watch. Both kids were asleep and took a 3-hour nap during the game. It is a unicorn, as they say as a parent. Like, there is no chance that ever happens, And I'm so sitting here, I'm like, God, everything's going up, Robbie. Right? We got snacks, we got the food, we got the watching, it's quiet. It's only me in the game, and we're against a trash team. We have an opportunity here, right? And it's just calamity after calamity after calamity, and it just keeps on going 6 times, and it's hard to watch. I wanted to turn it off multiple times, but I'm like, I can't be a fair weather fan. I got to stick through it. But man, it was hard. It was one of the hardest things I've had to stomach as a fan of this team. And it was surprising, I'll say, Dujunnea, because we've played the Eagles twice this year in a much more exciting and interesting games.
I wish I could say it's surprising, but you know, it's one thing about this team, and there's one constant. Glitch, Ron Rivera standing on the sideline, looking like he's paused consistently, pretty much says and makes a clear statement of how this team performs. And every time there's a must-win game or a game that they need to have, this team shows up looking like they're not prepared, and they don't play to the level or with the same motivation as their opposing opponent. I mean, the 6 turnovers are tough, but again, I listened to John Allen talk after the game, and all that stuff sounds great, but we're in week 11. I really don't want to hear that from you, because what are you guys doing in practice? And I have this feeling like the locker room is tired of hearing from a coach that they know has got his nuts chopped off and he's a lame duck. And, ownership can do what they want, short week, but
why aren't they pulling the trigger? What do you think is the rationale here at this point?
maybe they're using the excuse of the short week. Me personally, I don't really give a crap. All you got to do is look at the Raiders, what they did. Antonio Pierce is now the coach, and they're playing harder. I mean, they didn't win yesterday, but they definitely were playing inspired football. Me personally, I'd have sent both of those jokers packing after that. I mean, you come in here, Dallas, as usual, has been taking care of business against lesser teams like they should. And to be honest with you, this team should have been able to do the exact same thing. I mean, they've been able to score 30 points, 28 to 30 points with ease. The defense with 9 sacks, I mean, come on, man. Like, the mistakes and the mental mistakes are a direct result of leadership, period. And we see these types of mistakes and mishaps and lapses in performance on regular basis. It starts at the top. I mean, obviously, it's clear that Eric doesn't have much of a voice. because if he did, I feel like this offense would be a little bit better and a little bit more inspired. I think he has to be. I think he's a little bit on a governor a bit because Ron wants to be the king dingling in the room, and they're playing just like their coach, muted, paused. It just makes no sense. But I think this is what this team is, and I think fans are just going to have to suck it up and realize that this is it. With this coaching staff, this is it.
You have a guy who you're looking at to be the next guy. Why don't you just pull the plug and see what you got?
I agree with you 100%. I mean, if it was me, the announcement of them being fired would have happened last night. He definitely wouldn't be sitting in the press conference today. I can tell you that right now. Him and January 6th would not be there. So, I mean,
it's hard to watch these press conferences. Like, I will just have to see. I'm like, you know what I mean? What does that mean? Like, he's like, people just call it excuses. Like, and I don't know. There's some people that are arguing. It's like, well, it's not the coaches throwing the interceptions and causing the fumbles and all
true.
that.
But it's happening on these things. How many times have we seen Logan Thomas fumble in the same fashion this year? It's been a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're not coaching him up with technique, you think?
Look, I think it's real hard for a bunch of players to go out knowing that the man that's at the helm is out of here. I mean, he coaches like he's out of here. I mean, he looks like he has no control. In that press conference today, he looked, all that coaches speak and, it's a guy it sounds like a guy who doesn't have any control. Period.
Ron Rivera came out last week before this game and said he wasn't worried about being on the hot seat. Come on, man.
Exactly.
Literally sitting there and saying you don't give a shit if you're on the hot seat or not. Who really gonna believe in you if you don't care if you're on the hot seat or not?
Exactly.
That's what I don't get. I don't get that. Like, if I'm a coach and I know that seat is piping hot to the point it's burning my ass off, I'm going to care. I'm not going to sit on the press conference and not care. I'm going to care and be like, we're going to do what we can to right the ship. That's what I don't understand. That's what I don't like about this situation.
Exactly.
I don't care. And I'm like, okay, if you don't care, why should we care about you?
My whole thing, and that's why I said it earlier in the season when they took that loss, when they took the loss to the Giants, I think that voice in the room is stale. It's been stale. And the fact of the matter is it makes it worse now that with this record, this guy ain't going to be here. And they likely are thinking it's a matter of time before he's out of here, before he's, kicking that can down the road before the season's over with, if some of this stuff keeps up. But, I'll go over to the defense real quick too. So great plan for the first quarter. By the second quarter, Giants had made adjustments. Anytime the Giants had to pass and have to have routes develop a little bit more, that's when they got the sacks. But when they went to the quick game, there was nothing they could do because Jack didn't make any adjustments. Jack didn't make an adjustment until 2 minutes and 16 seconds left in the fourth quarter when they forced a punt. He finally made an adjustment. Too little, too late. Should have happened well before then because they made that adjustment coming out of that first quarter. They made the adjustment quickly, and they started going to the quick game, getting the ball out quicker, getting Saquon out in routes. And what does Jack do? Keep beating his head against the wall, expecting, doing the same thing, expecting different results and not making adjuststants. So,
Jack Del Rio's defense got beat by a kid who still lives with his parents.
Danny DeVito.
But I can't shade him for still living with his parents at 35. It wasn't until I was at 25. I was until 37 when I finally moved out. So I mean, if he could get there, get the free food, the free lodging, look, all power to him. But the fact that he still lives with his parents and he came to DC and beat us like he did, that's
a third stringer undrafted. All right. And yes, I know his name's Tommy DeVito, but he's Danny DeVito to me. All right. There's no way that should have happened. But again, like I said, this team plays like its coach.
You got to see this takedown. Unfortunately, Swift gets a massive first down, just cuts right through, and just almost takes it to the house. But just this this side takedown was beautiful. As a wrestling fan, you would appreciate it. Yeah, the Eagles are now rolling, trying to get something going here with less than 5 minutes in the third. They go for the end zone off the fingertips there. They're right now down 17-7. And a pretty good rematch here of the Super Bowl. Yeah, it's just this whole thing is so frustrating. I feel like I'm watching the same exact show every week. It's the same thing with the Wizards. I'm just like,
Yeah.
what has to change? Because some of these opportunities, they go a different way, and this whole season is different, right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
we're not so far away, but yet we're
No.
still the laughing stock of the league, so it's just like it's frustrating.
And I listen to a lot of fans. I've seen a lot of fans commenting about what the Josh Harris group should have done in the beginning of the season. Look, man, they didn't even get the team until late. And you can't make these kind of changes right before the draft. I mean, you're basically head first into the season. So, I don't fault anything the Harris group has done. That I expected it, but I also expected this team to perform better. I didn't think Ron was going to keep his job at the end of the year, regardless. But I did expect this team to perform a lot better than it has shown. Um, you know, but we are also seeing some of the things that we've seen throughout the years here with Ron, and we're seeing some of the things that he did, happened to him in Carolina. I mean, let's be real. He had one winning season in Carolina, so his resume is pretty much on par. He's on par with what he was doing in Carolina. I mean, got this thing to be a little bit more respectable, but at the end of the day, it's about wins and losses. And when you have this kind of talent on the football team, and your butt's on the hot seat, and they come out, in every big game, in every game that matters, flat. It starts with leadership. Yeah, they're not the ones throwing the interceptions, and they're not the ones fumbling the ball. But I mean, we're in week 11, so that's also on leadership. Because what are you doing in practice? What are you getting somebody's behind when they make these mistakes? Nope. Ron's standing there with his hands folded for 60 minutes, barely moves. So I don't, what do you expect? What do you expect? So, I don't, honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't expect them to win another game this year, and they definitely not gonna win any division games. So, and this Thursday, boy, I wouldn't, don't let them upset you, because I really
I'm
think this is
happy
going
they're
to be
not
a
going to be
dog walking.
watching the game. I actually am going to be at a dinner downtown. I was gonna bring, I can bring up YouTube on my phone. If I'll check the score. If it gets close, I might watch it on my phone. But I'm not, what I mean. I'm not gonna go
Yeah.
out of my way to watch it. I may have felt differently if we had won this game, or at least even been competitive in some ways. Like it was just really hard game to watch, and if the Cowboys have crushed that team that just did this to us
Yep.
both games, I don't go into this game expecting a whole lot. I
They're
just
going to dog walk the Commanders. And
yeah.
this is the reason. I know a lot of people are like, well, why get rid of them now? We're almost at the end of the season. Just let it play out. Look, after you come out and you lose to a team like the Giants that are going to get curb stomped next week, you're going to come into this game, national TV, against, it's not even a rivalry anymore, let's be real, but a hated team, and you're going to get embarrassed. I would rather get rid of the guys that every time there's a big game, they come in flat, give the locker room a spark, because I do think Ron has lost the locker room, but I believe he lost the locker room after the Bears lost. Talking about a low point. The low point has already been here. It was here after you lost to the Bears. So you can, miss me with that. But like I said, I would have done that. Let EB run the offense, promote Ryan Kerrigan or one of your other experienced linebacker coaches to be the DC. You're not changing any defenses. You're not going to change the scheme. They're just calling plays, defensive setups, and how they're going to play. Those guys are smart enough to do that. So you're not going to change the whole defense around because you let Jack go. I think the team needs a spark. I think the team needs a guy who can motivate them. That guy is EB. I really do believe that. But since they didn't want to do that because of a short week, they're going to get dog walked on Thursday. They're going to come out and play flat and get beat. But caveat, I will say this. In times where fans want this team to like look bad, get curb stomped so these guys can get up out of here, they do what they shouldn't be doing and they end up being in games fighting and likely sometimes winning these games, like the Eagles games. Nobody thought they'd be involved in those games, yet they are. But then they go and play people like the Bears and Giants and lose,
Right.
and lose bad. You know what I mean? So who knows what we're going to see on Thursday? But me personally,
it wasn't like the Giants were that good.
No.
I mean, there's 24 points off those 6 turnovers out of the 31 total points.
They pooped their pants.
So it tells me they would have scored a touchdown if we didn't give it to them, and we would have destroyed them, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's the most frustrating part. And the thing is on some of these plays, Howell was trying to throw it away, and
that was tough, man. He really was trying to throw that thing away. It got either his arm got hit or the ball got hit, or he just couldn't throw it well enough to where it came out like a duck.
The pivot foot,
yes.
It threw a lame duck and it quacked, and
because that last 7 isn't indicative to what the overall game looked like. You know what I mean?
It was a closer game for a lot of it, which is maybe even more frustrating because thinking we're gonna get back in it, we're gonna come back, we're gonna do it. And I just
they had no business.
It'd be easier if they were just destroying us 31-7. I could just turn it off.
Right.
DJ, I think you said it best. If we want to get someone wants to get right, go against the Commanders. I got a bold prediction here. I think Deron Bland breaks the record for most pick sixes in the season against his team on Thursday.
Just because he has my last name, he's going to do it.
Yeah. Distant cousin.
Yeah, distant cousin. He's going to do it.
Now, Deron Bland is going to break the record against his team because Sam Howell's going to throw one that he's not supposed to throw. He's going to be there and he's going to take it to the house.
I don't know if he's going to have a choice because I think that Dallas defense is going to cook that offensive line.
Oh, that Dallas defense is about to cook us all the way around.
Yeah,
I feel sorry for anybody that plays that defense in fantasy football this week.
Y'all better play CeeDee Lamb. You play Cook. Everybody gonna get a touch. Play that young tight end. He gonna get a lot of touches too. I don't know about Pollard though. They've been doing pretty good with the run, and Pollard is just not that. If it was another big back like a Zeke and him, yeah, they'd have a good day. But any of them wide receivers, if you got them on your fantasy team, put them in because they're gonna eat.
I gotta give you credit, Dujunnea. You got the Broncos over the Vikings in that game, which I did not necessarily see that happening. And the Broncos have just been on this tear lately, and
it's crazy, ain't it?
Yeah, and what that did is it gave you a really good week on this fantasy, and I'll give you a lot of props for that. It was a rough week for me. I only got 80 points, but you got 100. And that puts us in a tie for second place. My father-in-law, who's coming to town on Wednesday, is still leading the pack with 10 points above both of us.
I rebounded this week.
And somehow one of my games didn't get picked when I picked those games a week before. So I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, but yeah, it's weird because you picked all the other games. So, but
yeah, it's weird.
That is weird. But yeah, it's been a really interesting pick'em year. I've been enjoying doing that with you guys. And it's true. Champ had a good week. I think he had 90. Dujunnea had 100, I think, and I had 80. So we all did pretty well. It's been quite the battle. At the top of the league. And Hurt's right there as well. And so is Sith. And so it's and Champ, you're right there in sixth place. So And Arun is only 3 games back as well. So we're all doing pretty well. Arun was at that Bucks Wizards game, which I warned him. We went to the hockey game. I was like, end your week off right. Don't go to that game on Monday. Like, stick with the good win that you enjoyed with the
Oops.
Capitals. Don't put yourself through that. But
Yeah.
someone bought him a ticket, so I guess that's something. But I'm not sure if seeing a 142, 129 game is worth it. Though he did want to see Giannis and he did play. So that's something. So,
Yeah.
but uh, man, we don't talk a lot of basketball, you and me, Dujunnea, but this tournament is going to be rough. Where I think we're going over 4 in this like mid-season tournament because we get to play this team again. At the end of end of next week, I guess it is, or no, it's the end of this week, I think.
I think it's the end of this week.
Wizards are already eliminated from this tournament. Like, by the way,
of course they are, but they might go winless in it, which is that's not good.
My Lakers are hanging on by a thread. They win in 1-point games, but I guess they're winning.
It's kind of I do like that this in season tournament is kind of spicing things up a little bit.
It really does. Normally I wouldn't even be paying attention to basketball. To be honest with you, I don't start paying attention until February. So it gives people a reason to care. And I do like the tournament.
Every Friday, right? So the tournament, if people don't realize, I don't think I truly realize, they scheduled all the Friday games to be tournament games, which then something makes all the Friday night games matter, right?
Yep.
And so at least you have that early in the season on a weekend, or people might come to a game, and then they're going to take a week to do the actual like next round of the tournament, and then the other teams that aren't making it, they all play each other, so they still, there's not like there's a big gap for the other teams. So I think it's an interesting way to mix it up a little bit. I do hope that they do USA versus the world. There are rumbles of that for the All-Star game. I think
that would be good.
That would be good. I think that they should bring that back as a concept. They've done that in hockey, and so yeah, it's interesting to watch the NFL try to make these maneuverings because they're kind of losing ground to like NFL and even hockey to some extent in these early season ratings, and they kind of needed something, because what you just said, I don't care until February, is the average NBA fan, which is, that says something into itself. And I try to cover this Wizards team, and I'm going to sit here and try to do this with Ken after you leave, but I don't want to, I want to be a fair weather fan. I'm going to cover them good and bad, but like, there's nothing about anything I have to talk about that I want to go through. And so, it's rough.
It's rough to be a Washington fan, period.
Yeah, so I'm happy that the Caps are doing so well, because they were supposed to be terrible, and at least they are like on fire, one of the hottest teams in the NHL right now. So us going to that game, them winning, beating defending champions, at least there's a positive narrative, because oh man, I would not have the smile on my face if we didn't. So it's become a tough time. But DJ, I want to let you get out of here. But any final thoughts you have about either the game that just passed or this Cowboys game coming up, or what we can do at this point?
I just hang in there, guys. It's like, it's going to you got to go through these things to get to where you need to get to, and realize that it's a process. But I don't think it's going to be like, I'm not uttering, and I don't want to hear from ownership or anybody else talking about rebuilds, because we see teams like the Eagles. There are other examples of teams that simply just reload. So, and there's people that have turned organizations around in a year. I thought Seawall on her show had a good point. He's like, what do you want from, what is winning? What is winning, or what does winning look like to you? And for me, just for this team personally, I think it's follow a model of the Eagles. Sure, they've made a couple Super Bowl appearances, but at least they're winning the division. They're getting in the playoffs, and they're making some kind of noise. And I think if that was consistent, you're always in the hunt and you're always there, I think it would be a lot better for this fan base. But it's going to take, it's going to take some turnaround. And I think that the group has, they have a plan, and they're going to stick to that plan. And I think it will benefit in the long run. But right now, it's hard for a team to win when at this point, especially when you're looking at wins and losses, at a coach that's lamed up. And I think that feeling is permeating in the locker room, and it's showing up on the football field. And it doesn't get any easier, guys. I mean, Dallas Thursday, Miami after that, Rams, Jets, 49ers, and then Cowboys at the end. It's a gauntlet. And the only game that they might have a chance in is the Jets because, Zach Wilson isn't that great, but he might not be playing. Who knows? Aaron Rodgers might be back. I don't know. Like, the guy's out here practicing apparently. So,
all those things you mentioned are better than us. Like,
yes,
we lose all of them, and it sucks because I had us going 500, having a rough start. Beating Seattle, getting us to 500, then beating the Giants to then push us to go on a big win streak here to make the playoffs. And I have zero confidence that any of that's happening anymore. And it's already too late. I think even if we were to beat Dallas this week, I don't think we could win enough games to make it to the playoffs.
No.
I wouldn't want to make the playoffs with this team. I honestly wouldn't.
3 out of the 6 games left are at FedEx. Hasn't made much of a difference, but they are at home. So
anyway, but hopefully we'll have some surprise, like they beat the Cowboys and when they show up, and exciting game to talk about next week. But DJ, let people know, are you doing a show this week? I know it's Thanksgiving week,
No show this week. I figured it's just gonna be too hard to get guests on a Wednesday. And a lot of stuff going on. People are traveling, so no show this week. Next week, we do have at least one person possibly set up for the Commanders talk. We're going to work on some things as through the holiday, contact some people through the holiday, and we'll be back next Wednesday to talk Commanders. We're going to get some NHRA stuff in as the season has finished up, talking about some off-season things with some people. And man, it's going to be fun.
I didn't even see. Hurt did say that he had time tonight. I'm sorry I didn't see that earlier, but it was gonna be tough to fit that in with all the hockey talk, and it was a special night. I wanted to give the hockey guys. Hopefully, we'll maybe have Hurt back, next week to talk about the Dallas game. We also are in talks with someone that was really good that you had on a couple of weeks ago, Rio Robinson, and so there's talks maybe have him join our segment at 10 o'clock next week. So that could be at least add some spice into this conversation. Not that I don't love talking to you two about constant losses, but it's, it'll be fun to get another fan's perspective possibly there. So
for sure.
There's a possibility. It's not all set in stone, but there is, at least I want to let our podcast listeners that there's the possibility of that. Everyone should go check out Rio Robinson over on YouTube. He puts out some great content over there. Also check out Dujunnea's show from it's either 2 or 3 weeks ago now. All the weeks kind of run together for me, but he was great on your show as well. And so hopefully, if we don't have him then, hopefully one of those last couple of shows before the end of it, right before the segment with you guys, I'll mention it again now because I do clip these up as separate YouTube videos. That we will have just 3 weeks left before we take a 3-week winter break. We'll have next week's show, which will be a pregame for the Caps, which will be an interesting difference. We'll talk about the Cowboys game, also talk about the week in recap of the Caps and the Wizards. And then we'll also have one on the 4th and then the 11th. And the 11th will kind of be like a birthday special because people on Twitch like to celebrate their birthday on an episode. So we will do that on Twitch and have some fun with that. And then it will be the last show that we do. We're taking off the 18th, the 25th, and the 1st because it's New Year's. And then we'll come back on the 8th. And I believe that the national championship will be on the 8th. They almost always do that.
Yeah.
The week after. So it'll be fun to have you back on for that. We can talk about playoff actions for the teams that are going to make it, as well as maybe talk a little bit about that live championship game, which is always kind of fun to watch together. So we had a lot of fun during that last year and previously.
Yeah. Hopefully my dogs are in it.
Yeah, hopefully. I'll root for that. So Aggies fired their coach with 9 years remaining on a contract with the biggest contract loss, I guess, you've ever could have. So, that's frustrating. Not even the coach of the bowl game, or I mean, they beat LSU this week. They might get a good bowl game too.
They might. They just might.
They'll beat LSU because they don't have a coach. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But it'll be fun to definitely discuss it over the next couple of weeks. But I appreciate you, Dujunnea, for helping us bring it down and bringing some levity to a otherwise could be depressing topic. We'll definitely talk to you next week.
Absolutely. Y'all have a good show.
All right. Have a happy Thanksgiving as well.
Thank you. You too, man.
All righty. Champ, that leaves it to you and I to talk about some football, a little bit of Wizards, and probably some wrestling. We'll probably speak as little about the Wizards as I possibly can.
I would much rather talk wrestling and not talk about any more football or any more Wizards, honestly. I'll just be honest with you.
I will go through the scores very quickly.